G'day my fellow media collectors and welcome to the Comic Book Movie Collector's Guide, your show about collecting all things superhero cinema. I'm your host Troy, and today we're going to have our first video in a new series of videos here on the channel, and that is the subscriber selection review. And the movie that you voted for out there for me to review was The Crow on Blu-ray. So let's have a look and see, should you add this to your collection? I don't know. What do you say we get into it?
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice, the Super Friends
are reviewing The Crow, a live-action superhero movie with a runtime of 102 minutes. The film was released into theatres on the 13th of May 1994 and later on DVD on the 3rd of February 1998, with it then later released on Blu-ray on the 18th of October 2011, with no 4K HD release as of this video. It was written by David J. Schow and John Shirley, with it directed by Alex Proyas. The film was produced by Dimension Films, with it distributed by Miramax Films. The movie has become a cult classic as it was the actor Brandon Lee's last movie, as he was accidentally shot on set while filming by a faulty prop gun. So let's look at the cover here, and I really like that cover. There's a few different covers here which I'll have because it's been out for a while. There's a lot of different versions out there, but I think I like this one the best, where he's sitting there brooding. It looks fantastic, great, nice shot. If we look on the side, that sticks out. That really does on your shelf. That's really good. And as far as the back's concerned, that's a fantastic shot there of the scene where he lights up the crow symbol with fire. It looks fantastic. Not a real lot going on there, but that shot alone is enough to have a great looking back cover. Now, as far as the disc goes, yeah, the Village Roadshow logo with just the crow. I mean, come on, you could have gone with a shot at least, just something. I think would have looked fantastic, but they're kind of cheaped out there. Anyway, I can't complain other than that. Actually, I think this is a really solid effort for the cover. I've got this one, and I've also got the DVD as well, which wasn't too bad. Or like I said, that's good, but this one's definitely better. So anyway, for this, I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So, the movie introduces us to Eric Draven and his fiancée Shelley, who were brutally murdered by a local gang. And on the eve of Halloween, 1 year after their murder, Eric is brought back to life by the Crow as an undead avenger to seek revenge on the gang members who killed them and the crime boss who ordered the killings. With only 2 days to complete his task, can the Crow deliver justice for himself and his fiancée Shelley and be reunited with her in the afterlife?
That sounds romantic.
This is a really great story, but pretty simple at the same time, as at its core, it's just a straight up vengeance story. But it's done with this real level of emotion and feeling as we're taken on this journey with Eric, as he sort of comes to terms with his grief by dealing out some violent justice in the process.
We do it for justice.
It's one of those stories where you don't get bogged down in a heavy plot, and you get more of that character building story, really about the pain of grief and loss of a loved one. The balancing act of this emotive storytelling and the action-packed violence is done really well and really complement each other throughout the film, with it concluding with a very satisfying finish to the movie. It sort of shows that even in the bleakest of times, some good can come out of the world.
One less bad guy in the world, nice work.
Look, the script was good and the dialogue was solid as well, but there are some overly used classic 90s movie tropes throughout this movie, especially with the dynamic between Sergeant Albridge and the disgruntled Detective Torres, always on each other's cases, which leads to the sergeant getting suspended and then him going on to be a vigilante with the Crow to help take down the criminals. Let's face it, that's a very heavily used 90s trope there if I've ever seen one. But with that all aside, as it was a very good job overall, that's for sure. So look, with that, I'm probably going to give it, I'm going to go with a 26 out of 30. So this movie is adapted from the comic book series of the same name, but with some liberties taken to the story, so it's not a straight up adaptation as such. But the film really does manage to convey the gritty, dark, gothic vibe that the comic book had, and it really conveys it up on the screen with its very monochrome colour scheme of like dark colours that's almost to the point of being black and white, just like the comics.
They don't see color.
And the use of all the rundown city sets and the constant rain really helped to emote the bleakness and depression of the city that's really just under siege by all these inner city gangs.
I'm okay with most kinds of violence, but not gang violence.
Look, the cinematography in this is great, and the director does a really good job of creating a vibe and a feel for the surroundings and set pieces, making this really great backdrop for this type of story. The one thing that I think is exposed by the crisp picture quality of, say, watching this on Blu-ray was the special effects, unfortunately. A few times there, they really stood out and it didn't look great. That's, you know, with that saying, like I watched it back in the day on VHS and a lot of those scenes look fine back on some grainy VHS, if you know what I mean. But not so great now when you've got these real crisp, clear sort of pictures.
Look at that picture quality.
Now, as far as the cast go, I will have the list up here. And as you can see from a few of the names up there are some regular 90s bit part actors that will show up in this movie. Like with the likes of David Patrick Kelly, John Polito and Marco Rodriguez, just to name a few. Now, Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Elbridge, he was great. And look, I've always been a fan of him since Ghostbusters anyway. And a main villain, Michael Wincott as Top Dollar, was great too. His presence and his low baritone voice really gives you this real menacing vibe of that character. And of course, our lead man, Brandon Lee as Eric Draven. He was exceptional. He really knocked it out of the park. This was definitely going to be his breakout role for his career, and shoot him off into stardom if he hadn't been accidentally killed, of course, which was a real shame. Look, overall, there's a lot of great things here, and for that, I think I'm going to give it a score of 18 out of 20. So we do have some special features on here, and they include behind the scenes featurette, the making of The Crow featurette, a profile of James O'Barr, the creator of The Crow, some extended scenes, and a deleted footage montage. Now, these features are very run-of-the-mill 490s fare, if you know what I mean, which they were very short and they were more made for like TV advertising purposes more than anything else. They weren't really special or that insightful. There were some extra scenes as well, not a real got there. And the profile of the creator was a weird one to watch. Go have a look at it. He was kind of like he was just answering some questions off something had written down in front of a camera that he had in his house. And he was acting really weird and stuff. It was definitely not polished like the other pieces. It was a strange fare. But other than that, look, they are special features, but they ain't that special. So at least they've got something. But for that, just because they do, I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10. Now, the critic score came in at 84% and the audience score was 90%. Now, they're exactly where I thought they would be, as there is so much love for this movie out there that it's one of the true cult classics of its time, and one people have still got fandom for today, like some 30 years later. So no surprises here with the scores. And come to think of it too, I don't think I could find any bad reviews out there when I was doing my searches. So that says a lot about this film. Anyway, if we round it all up, we're going to get a cracker of a score of 9 out of 10. So for me, I love this film when it first came back out. I remember going to watch it at the cinema with a good mate of mine, Macca, and both of us being massive comic book fans at the time. Well, I still am. But we were so impressed with this film, as it was just one of the best comic book movies we had seen at that time. Now myself, I'm also a bit of a martial arts fan as well, so I'd seen Brandon Lee in some other stuff prior to this film, and I was like really impressed with how much his acting chops had improved by the time he got to this movie, compared to, say, some of the first time outings he had in some, shall we say, B-grade action movies. He really had lifted his game in this movie, and as I said before, this would have been his breakout movie role and made him a mainstay action star of the 90s and beyond, if he hadn't accidentally been killed.
Such a tragedy. Such a tragedy.
Now, I have to admit, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I was kind of glad that when it was selected by you out there, I was super keen to give it a revisit and see if this movie had held up over time. And I gotta say, for the most part, it has. For me, the story and the film itself really still hold up. But I have to go back to, there was a couple of special effects that do kind of date the film. But look, if you can look past them, you will have no trouble enjoying this movie. So thank you to all my subscribers that voted out there for this one. It was a great film to watch again, and I can't wait to see what you guys pick for the next review. Anyway, it's score time, and for this one, I am definitely going to give this a 19 out of 20. So, first up is collectability, and if we look at the collector scale, I would say this would be for your novice and up, as look, this is really for anybody. You do not have to be a comic book fan to enjoy this movie or put a copy in your collection. Now, as far as availability goes on this one, this is definitely on your common side of things, as you will have no trouble at all picking up a copy of DVD or Blu-ray from your usual retail outlets or on your second-hand markets like eBay. As far as your average price goes, you are looking somewhere between about the $5 to $19 mark for DVD, and if you're looking for a Blu-ray, you're looking at somewhere between the $8 to $35 mark. And of course, there is nothing for 4K HD as of this video. Now, for the final score, we get a grand total of 85 out of 100. Well, that is a spot on score for this beloved comic book movie classic, and it deserves the admiration it gets. So look, we asked the question, should you add this to your collection? Of course you should. It's a must-have for any collector, superhero, comic book, or otherwise. It is a definite must-have in any collection.
It will be mine. Oh yes. It will be mine.
Hey, so if you like this video and you want to see some more of my reviews, why don't you click that one there? Or maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. Got you covered too. Why don't you click that one there? And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing. Throw me a bat like, and don't forget to hit that subscription button. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.